Good evening, folks, and welcome to the live stream. Hope you're all very well this evening. Hope you had a nice week and you're ready for the weekend. So what are we going to cover tonight? Of course, there's the big story about Andy Burnham. Is Andy Burnham going to become an MP? Is he going to run in this by-election? Is he going to challenge Keir Starmer for leader of the Labour Party and become Prime Minister? Well, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. There is I believe a vote or a chance for him to put his name into a hat tomorrow, so he needs to have all his ducks in a row. It seems that Keir Starmer and the NEC, so Keir Starmer basically controls the NEC, they're not too happy about the idea of Andy Burnham, so I'm going to cover a bit more on that later in the stream. The United States has withdrawn from the World Health Organization, so I'll cover that as well. Canada is pushing back. I think we're starting to see a new world order, and it doesn't really involve Donald Trump and the United States. A few other stories I want to cover as well. There's ICE in the United States are completely out of control, and a few other stories as well. So let's jump into the first one, which of course is about the United States withdrawing from the World Health Organization. So from the White House, effective today, the United States has exited the World Health Organization. This fulfills President Trump's commitment under an executive order signed 1 year ago, following the WHO's mishandling of COVID-19 and its ongoing lack of reform, accountability, and transparency. So Donald Trump is not pro-life, he's pro-death, because that's what we're talking about here. You know, this is going to put so many lives at risk, and not just in the United States, but throughout the world, because a lot of the coordination takes place in the United States. So if the US is withdrawn from the World Health Organization, it's going to cut funding, of course, to that organization, and it's going to remove important infrastructure, important support that it has had over the last number of decades. And the World Health Organization, is it perfect? No, of course it's not. But if you want to reform something, you do it from within, not from without. And, you know, I thought it was a joke when I first heard that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was going to be the U.S. Health Secretary, in a sense, the Secretary of State for Health and Human Services. I thought it was a joke. And no, he's the guy in charge, the anti-vaxxer, the guy who thinks you should be drinking raw milk as opposed to pasteurized milk, the guy who thinks that, you know, I found it so funny that he was being interviewed and he was talking about health, you know, healthy food and healthy eating while sitting in a frigging McDonald's. These people are insane, and they're going to create massive damage to the world, not just to the United States, but to the world. And I'm sorry we have to start off on a very bad note, but the sooner Donald Trump is out of office, the better, for not just for the United States, but for everyone. Anyway, let's move on. The big story of tonight, of course, is Andy Burnham. So it says here, Angela Rayner will defy Keir Starmer and publicly back allowing Andy Burnham to stand as an MP tomorrow. So as we know, there is a by-election coming up, and it seems that Andy Burnham is interested, or some people are interested in having Andy Burnham run as a candidate in that by-election. Now, it's interesting because the polling is split three ways, generally. It's and I see Mandy is there. It's split three ways, generally. You have Reform, you have Labour, and you have the Greens, pretty much split on 20% each. And then the other parties are trailing significantly. So this election, by-election, could go either to Reform, it could go to the Labour Party, or it could go to the Greens. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. And this is wonderful for political junkies like myself. For most people, it's not really all that interesting, but this could be pretty interesting because it could have a serious impact on two individuals, Keir Starmer or Andy Burnham. Now, Andy Burnham, I think, is at a disadvantage here because he's coming in at probably a bad time, because following what's happened with Trump, I think Keir Starmer is in a stronger position. Now, I don't know if this is working out for him domestically, but on the international stage, Starmer has benefited from standing up to Trump. Not a huge, he hasn't stood up a huge deal, but he has stood up somewhat, and I think this has benefited Starmer. Look, I'm not Starmer's fan, but I think if he's doing a good job, he should be commended for that. And I think when it came to Trump, at the beginning, he was pretty weak, but then he, along with other European allies, threw their support behind Greenland and Denmark and stood up to Trump to a certain extent. So I think Starmer has benefited from that. There also has been the situation with Reform. Reform are starting to dip in the polls. A lot of their support is going back to the Conservatives, not to Labour, but to the Conservatives. So that's going to help Labour in a sense, because it's splitting the right-wing vote. A lot of the vote was going to Reform, but now it's been split between Reform and the Conservatives. So that will help Labour. But let's get back to Andy Burnham now. So Andy Burnham is, of course, the mayor of Greater Manchester. So he would have to resign. I've mentioned before the problems, the obstacles for Andy Burnham. The first obstacle was, of course, a by-election. So I had said, look, there would need to be a by-election in a seat that would be beneficial to Andy Burnham, and he would have to put himself forward, which he'll have to do tomorrow. So the time limit is tomorrow afternoon. I think it's around 5 p.m. So this is going to be a big story tomorrow, if he's able to get his application in on time. He hasn't come out and said that he wants to be a candidate, so he could be waiting until later on. I think if Andy Burnham wanted to take over from Keir Starmer, he would be better placed to wait until after May, because then Starmer would be in a weaker position and there would be more appetite for a challenge to the leader. I don't think there's much of an appetite at the moment for a challenge to the leader. Labour are not doing very well in the polls. Keir Starmer is a massive drag on the party, but I think there's a feeling it would be bad for the party to change leader at this stage. But we'll have to wait and see. I could be wrong here. So for Andy Burnham, he needs to win this by-election if he's the candidate. But there's a problem. The Green Party are potentially splitting the left-wing vote. Now, Zach Polanski could tell his candidate to stand down in order to help Andy Burnham. But what happens if Andy Burnham fails? So this would be a mistake for the Green Party. They would say, hey, look, we had an opportunity to win this seat, and we stood down our candidate, or we didn't campaign, and Andy Burnham failed. This would end Andy Burnham's career straight away, because he would have abandoned his position as the mayor of Greater Manchester. He would have to be stepping away from that. Or potentially he could still hold on to that. I don't know the ins and outs of this. The mechanics of the Labour Party are more complicated than the European Union. But it seems what he'd need to do is he'd need to resign as mayor of Greater Manchester and then put himself forward as this candidate to win this by-election. Now, if he wins the by-election, it's not guaranteed, but let's say he does, Andy Burnham becomes an MP, then there would have to be some sort of program or campaign to challenge Keir Starmer. Now, at the moment, Keir Starmer doesn't seem to want to go. This, once again, I think Andy Burnham, if he is going forward with this, is maybe going at the wrong time. Once again, I think after May might be a better choice for him, because it would be much clearer the support that Starmer has or doesn't have. Because if the May elections go really bad, so you have the local elections in England, you have the Scottish Parliament election, you have the Senate election in Wales, if they go really bad for Labour, then the writing will be on the wall for Starmer. And that would be an opportunity for Andy Burnham. So I think this by-election could be a bad approach, a bad move for Andy Burnham, the mayor of Greater Manchester. But it seems that he has some support, pretty bigwig support in Angela Rayner here. So I want to show you this report from Sky News. So Andy Burnham, next Prime Minister, the big hurdle facing popular mayor, from Sky News.
Breaking news here on Sky News, and the network understands that Andrew Gwynn is to stand down as an MP, currently the MP for Gorton and Denton in the North West. Here to explain the significance, our Deputy Political Editor Sam Coates joins us, because Sam, it's not just the standing down that is noteworthy, but it's potentially who might replace Andrew Gwynn that we're really focused on.
Yes, this is a significant moment. What's happened today is the announcement that we are likely to get a by-election soon in a Manchester area seat, and this news will be sending a shiver, a shockwave through Downing Street and through this government. Why? Well, Andrew Gwynn appears to be set for an imminent departure from Parliament. He was a Labour MP. He was suspended and has admitted publicly on social media to mental health issues. He has now, we understand, done a deal over his pension that will clear the way for him to stand down. It's what happens next that is key, because amongst those thought to be likely to try for that seat is the prominent Metro Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, a figure.
Michael asks, what is Burnham's agenda for Manchester and who will replace him? There have been rumours that the footballer, Gary Neville could actually replace Andy Burnham as Mayor of Greater Manchester. So, of course, there would have to be an election, I presume. So there's a case that Gary Neville could become the next mayor of Greater Manchester, which would be interesting.
Who could, and doesn't rule out when asked, challenge Keir Starmer for the leadership, who could stand as an opponent to become Prime Minister. Now, it has to be said that Andrew Gwynn hasn't yet actually confirmed that he is.
Kirsty says, I just love the whoosh sound effect, makes the report more immediate and exciting. Yes, they do this all the time. There's a podcast that I listen to where they have this tick or tuck in it, and it's actually quite annoying.
Standing down, we just are aware of this deal that will clear the way for him to do so. But if he departs that seat, which has a majority of about 13,000, so I think those in Labour would think eminently winnable, it could be an opportunity for Andy Burnham to stand. However, he will face...
See, there's a problem that if Labour decide to put somebody else in charge, so as a candidate, put somebody else forward as a candidate, and that candidate loses to, for example, Reform, this will be an extreme embarrassment, a massive embarrassment for Keir Starmer. But then there's also the other problem. If Andy Burnham wins, once again, we don't know whether Andy Burnham is actually going to go for this, but let's say for the sake of argument, he does go for it and he wins, then he becomes a bit of a problem for Keir Starmer, because then you would start to see a campaign. And then there would be this massive drama within the Labour Party, something that Keir Starmer obviously doesn't want. But anyway, let's continue.
A series of significant hurdles. Under new rules introduced in the last year, Andy Burnham would have to seek express permission from Labour's ruling body, the National Executive Committee, because he is a mayor. Standing down as Metro Mayor of Manchester would trigger an expensive and lengthy contest.
Look, I don't think that the Labour government or the Labour Party, the Labour Party, not the government, the Labour Party would deny him permission to stand down. That would look really bad for the party, because many people support him. It's not like him being an opportunist here. A lot of people within Labour support the idea of replacing Starmer with Andy Burnham.
To replace him in that job if he wanted to become an MP, because you can't do both roles. And the NEC could say no. Then the NEC's selection panel could choose an alternative figure to Andy Burnham. In other words, there's a big decision for the NEC whether or not they allow Andy Burnham to stand or not. And the indications are that at the moment the NEC would fall into line with Downing Street's wishes and try and find a way to keep Andy Burnham off that ballot paper. But that is a far from easy decision. There'll be lots of people pushing.
I have a feeling, I'm speculating here, but I have a feeling what's going to happen is that Andy Burnham will not be allowed to, that the NEC will block this, that Andy Burnham will not be allowed to run, and the NEC will select some high-profile figure to run in this seat, because they really want to hold on to it. They have a good chance of winning it, and I think they'll choose a high-profile figure to, because if they choose a low-profile figure and lose it, it's going to be really embarrassing for Keir Starmer, because he would have lost a by-election. And as I mentioned before, a few by-elections would put a lot of pressure. By-election losses would put a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister. So they really want to win this, but they don't want Andy Burnham to win it. So they need to put forward somebody who's a strong candidate, somebody who's quite well known, I would imagine. but they don't want Andy Burnham because obviously Andy Burnham becoming a member of Parliament is a huge headache for Keir Starmer, and they would see, and I think the party and the NEC would see this as a massive distraction. So once again, Andy Burnham would be in a stronger position if it happened after the May elections, not before. Now, here's a political commentator with the Labour Party, and he's basically saying that if this happens, that Andy Burnham is blocked, he's going to leave.
Very, very open and very vocal. You're a huge fan of Andy Burnham's, and more than that, Matthew, you believe that if Andy Burnham is blocked from this chance, you're through with the Labour Party.
I don't see the point in continuing if the modus operandi of the Labour Party is to expand huge amounts of energy on blocking what is clearly the most qualified person, if he so wishes to run. Obviously, Andy Burnham's not made a statement yet on whether he would like to run or not. But if he would like to run, would quite clearly be the most qualified candidate compared to Joe Blogg's councillors and otherwise. If that's what the Labour Party is more determined to do, and to block probably one of the most popular politicians in the country to save the skin of one of the least popular politicians in the country, I see no point in carrying on trying to help these people. It is utterly pointless and a waste of my time.
And if Andy Burnham is blocked, you're out the door.
Yeah, see you later. I'm finished. I cannot be bothered anymore, Martin. It is utterly pointless. And if you want to persist, third in the polls, going to get trounced in Wales, trounced in Scotland and all across the country, and you're happy for your greatest achievement as a landslide Labour government to give Nigel Farage the keys to number 10, more power to you. I'm not being part of it.
Ouch. Okay. So I don't know how much influence this guy has within the Labour Party. He's a political commentator at the moment, but Jonathan Ashworth, oh my goodness, Reagan, please no. Please no. Not Jonathan Ashworth. Oh my goodness, the guy who lost his seat at the last election. That would be terrible to put him forward again. Give him another go. And of course, he's somebody who's would be very much aligned with Keir Starmer, so that would, would he win the seat? Probably. But I think a factor here is going to be the Green Party, because the Green Party could upset this a great deal, and the Green Party could be convinced to step aside if Andy Burnham is running, but they're not going to be convinced if it's somebody like Jonathan Ashworth. So the Green Party would say, here, there's a real opportunity for us to win this seat. You know, we're rising in the polls. Labour are doing really badly. We should be convincing the Labour candidate to stand aside for the Green candidate. And then Labour, of course, the Green Party would have another MP in the House of Commons. And this will be a case of them winning. This will be a massive win for the Green Party if they can pull this off, because they would have won a by-election. You know, when it comes to reform, we're seeing people defect, and that's not really fair. But a by-election win would be a huge boost to the Green Party, because they say, look, we can actually win elections now. They're still a small party, but Max, the Labour Party actually like you. The Labour Party like me? Is that like me or like me? Which is it? And which aspect of the Labour Party? Because I'm pretty critical of what they're doing. Andy Burnham could do both roles. The MP he's replacing is sadly gone nuts. I don't think he can under the rules, so he'd have to resign as the Mayor of Greater Manchester, and then he would have to put himself forward there would have to be like a transition, of course. He wouldn't do it automatically, but the by-election is probably going to take place in May, so, or maybe it'll take place before that, but I don't. They haven't actually set a date, because sometimes the by-election can be a few months out, but maybe it'll happen before. Isn't that an insult? Them liking you? I don't think any party likes me, because I'm quite critical. Like, I interviewed Zach Polanski some months back, but I'm critical of some of the things the Green Party do. Will Andy Burnham stand? What has Starmer got planned? Will they go tribal against their rival, and something underhand? Probably something. It sounds like something underhand is already afoot. Something underhand is already afoot. Let me read some more of your comments. hopefully Scots will give the Blue Tories a solid kicking come May. After that, maybe Burnham could make a move. Yeah, I think once again it would make sense for Andy Burnham to wait until the May elections, because then it will be clear. It could be a case of Keir Starmer does really well. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's possible. Anything could happen between now and May. A week is a long time in politics. A number of months is an infinity. So it's possible that something could happen and Keir Starmer starts to rise again in the polls. And then at the May election, he does pretty well. And the Labour Party say, hey, we better stick with Keir Starmer. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, but it's not impossible. And then it would be clear for Andy Burnham whether to go ahead with a challenge or not. Hey, Max, Don and I are Farage hunting in Clacton. As I type, any suggestions? Baras Mota, great to have you on the stream tonight. Hope you're well. I think it'd be good to ask them if you're meeting people. That's fantastic. It's something I'd love to do. I'd love to be there with you guys interviewing people in Clacton. I'd ask them, how often do you see Nigel Farage? Or ask them, what has he done for the constituency? Like, what has he done for the area? Do you see the area getting better? Do you think Labour have done something for the area, or what has Farage done? You could ask people to point out where the surgery is. And have you been to any of his surgeries? So I'm actually surprised nobody ever has called me Indie F. Indie Duck Mel. Labour has already getting a kicking in Scotland, and a Sawar is not liked. Swap Burnham for Windsor. The latter has a lot more spare time these days. Yes, he has a lot of time on his hands. On conversation, not one-worded answers. Best of luck. Oh, Daily Blase, great to see you on the stream tonight. Hope you're well. Great to see you once again. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next story, which involves Keir Starmer and Donald Trump. But before we get to that, I want to show you this clip involving a sort of hero of mine. His name is Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura, if you don't know, was in the film Predator. He was in a lot of movies, but my favorite one involving Jesse Ventura is Predator. So this is him talking about Donald Trump. Have a listen.
He's the draft-dodging coward who, when it was his time to serve his country, he did what all rich white boys did. I wasn't a rich white boy. I grew up in South Minneapolis. Most of me and all my friends are Vietnam veterans. We had to go. But the rich white boys never had to go, did they? And he didn't have to go, did he? And yet he's going to tell me what courage is? I'll give you a quote. We're a third world country now. I'm an expert. I've been to them. I spent 17 months in Southeast Asia while the draft dodger was playing golf. And freedom is not arresting people without warrants. We have a system here. It's called a constitution. And we have a party, the Republicans, who don't seem to want to abide by the Constitution. January 6th is a prime example of that. And now they're all free and they're in charge. He's the draft-dodging.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love this. Andy hasn't, Jesse hasn't got time to bleed. Wonderful guy. And he's completely correct. Donald Trump, of course, dodged the draft a number of times. It wasn't just once. It was, I think, 3 times or even 4 times. And the last time, of course, he claimed to have had bone spurs and he couldn't go. And he's the same guy who criticizes Vietnam veterans like John McCain and no doubt Jesse Ventura as well. And of course, he's the one who was recently bad-mouthing or complaining about allies not being on the front line in Afghanistan, which of course is an absolute lie. But then this is Donald Trump we're talking about. So what did Keir Starmer have to say about this?
Let's go live to our political correspondent, Amanda Acas, who's been in lobby for us. Bring us up to speed, Amanda. Yes, well, pretty strong language from the Prime Minister's official spokesperson on this, saying that Donald Trump was wrong to diminish the involvement of NATO and British troops in Afghanistan after the 9/11 attacks, going on to say, as other figures have done over the past few days, including, of course, Mark Rutte of NATO, that the only time that Article 5 has ever been invoked previously to bring other members of the alliance to the defence of an ally under attack was after 9/11, when of course we saw the response from the alliance in sending their forces to help the US in Afghanistan. So suggesting really that the US president is also wrong in his claims that potentially other allies wouldn't be willing to help.
Yeah, I love how people say Donald Trump is wrong. No, Donald Trump is talking out his fucking arse.
If the US was attacked once again. And the spokesperson, he went on to kind of talk about the fact that 457 British service personnel lost their lives in Afghanistan. Many more were wounded. Many hundreds suffered life-changing injuries from their service along the US and our allies in Afghanistan. Their sacrifice and that of other NATO forces made in the service of collective security and in response to an attack on our ally. We're incredibly proud of our armed forces, and their service and sacrifice will never be forgotten. Now, of course, the Prime Minister's spokesperson has had to come out with a strong line on this, because there is so much anger up and down the country about the US president's comments and the fact that he seems to have completely forgotten and be completely...
Can you imagine if Joe Biden had said something like this? Can you imagine what Nigel Farage and Reform TV, Reform UK TV, GB News, or Talk TV would be doing now? They would be having an absolute meltdown. How dare you insult our veterans? How dare you insult our armed forces? How dare you do this? They would be calling for the US ambassador to be called into number 10 and given an absolute bollocking. But they're completely silent. Now, Nigel Farage was asked about this, and have a listen to what he had to say.
But there was one thing that he did say that I have to take issue with. He said, NATO have never given us anything back. And I will object to that politely by saying this. When the decision was made to go into Afghanistan, we went in with America and a coalition of the willing. We stayed by America for the whole 20 years. We proportionately spent the same money as America. We lost the same number of lives as America, pro rata. And the same applies actually to Denmark and other countries too. So it's not quite fair. But there was one thing that he...
It's not quite fair. Okay, that's as strong as Nigel Farage's criticism gets. Donald Trump, the US, last few days, when he was criticizing the US administration, he was criticizing the US administration. He was saying the US is wrong, or the American government is wrong, but he never called out Donald Trump. And now he's saying it's not quite fair to say that British soldiers didn't put their lives on the line, that they were miles behind the front line. You know, of course, he can't criticize the dear leader, because he understands that everything he has invested in is linked to Donald Trump. I've seen a few American vets online who are furious with Trump for this. What I want to see is the US military. You know, no offense to veterans, but they have no power. The real power lies within the military. And where the hell is the military? Why are their generals not standing up and saying the president is wrong here? Maybe they're not allowed to. I don't know if they're able to get involved in politics, if they're allowed to have personal opinions. But they should be standing up to Trump, because they worked with British armed forces, French armed forces, German armed forces, Dutch armed forces, Danish armed forces. The French not in Iraq, of course. But they worked with forces around the world, members of NATO. They fought alongside them when they were grunts, and now they're generals. Why aren't they saying something about this? Because they're insulting... You know, if it had been a member, a president or a prime minister or a king or queen in Europe that had said something like this, the US forces would be rightly criticizing them. But Farage, you know, when it comes to Farage, the most he can say is, it's not quite fair. Okay. Once again, he won't criticize Putin and he won't criticize Trump. What's the point? And people want this guy in charge. People want this guy to be prime minister. Anyway, guys, let's move on to another story. In relation to, and I hope this doesn't put you to sleep, the Conservative Party. So it says here, Robert Jenrick and Kemi Badenoch accused each other of lying over special place in hell message. The former Conservative MP who defected to Reform UK last week posted a screenshot which he said showed the Tory chief whip Rebecca Harris had insulted him during a row over foreign aid in 2024. Robert Jenrick has published a private text allegedly from a Tory official after the party's leader, Kemi Badenoch, accused him of lying. It comes after the MP who defected from the Conservatives to Reform UK claimed the Tory chief whip, Rebecca Harris, contacted him in 2024 to say that there was a special place in hell for him. He alleged Miss Harris's messaged me with a litany of insults after he wrote an article for the Mail on Sunday in which he called for the UK's foreign aid budget to be halved to fund an increase in defence spending. Well, there is a certain place, a particular place in hell for Robert Jenrick. You know, once again, when it comes to foreign aid, I said before, foreign aid has two functions. One is soft power. It's about providing communities around the world with support, but it's about creating a channel for, or an entry point for, British businesses. This is one aspect of foreign aid. It's not just about drilling wells in poorer countries. It's also about accessing those countries and providing an entry point for businesses from the UK. And of course, it's about providing humanitarian support. So when people like Robert Jenrick say, "Oh, we should cut foreign aid," he wants to see Britain smaller on the world stage. He wants to create a vacuum for perhaps China to take over. And this is at a time when this guy is criticizing the existence of an embassy in London, a Chinese embassy in London. You know, these people would pretend to care about their country. He would claim to be a patriot, but he wants Britain to be smaller on the world stage. Trump is doing exactly the same thing, but his is more spiteful. And here's the, don't know if I can make, no, I can't make this any bigger. This is actual feedback. Leave the party and be a commentator. Go away. You're a bloodsucker user. You have a really special place in hell. Perhaps we can speak when we're back in Westminster. I value your advice and views. This is somebody who knew that they were going to do a screenshot. Okay. This is somebody who knew that they were going to share it on social media. Running us down in public just to feel good on heavens knows what basis. If you aren't happy with the direction of travel, fine. Please leave your party connections to deal with it, but not in public. Best announce you and Suella are standing down now. Suella Braverman, another troublemaker within the Conservative Party. This guy is toxic. Really, really toxic individual. It's better for the Conservatives that he's no longer there. I'm not saying that the Conservatives is a wonderful place to be, but it's better that trash like this guy is in Reform. The more trash that goes from the Conservatives to Reform, the better it is for the Conservative Party, because then they're going to be able to present themselves as something different. So this, I've said before, these are tactical victories for Nigel Farage, because he's able to present this as a win. Oh, look, another Conservative jumping ship, abandoning the Titanic, jumping on board SS Reform. No pun intended, maybe. Jumping on board our ship. This is going to damage the Conservative. This is going to damage Reform in the long term, because people are going to look at them and go, I thought you were meant to be something new. It's going to damage them. You know, if you fill your party up with ex-Tories, and not the good Tories, the bad ones, the worst ones, the trash of the Conservative Party, then of course it's going to look bad for you. And what is Robert Jenrick going to do? He's going to be an MP for a while, and then he's going to run, and we'll see if his constituency want to see more of him. Because he's not working for them. He's working for himself. Anyway, guys, let's move on to another story here. Actually, we'll take a short comedy moment, and then we'll be back in just a jiffy with more serious stuff. Hope you enjoyed this. I think you will.
Great job. It is a great honor for you to hear me tell you about the latest war I've ended. I'm stopping wars everywhere. 7 since I began this speech, including the War of the Roses, the War of the Worlds, War for Planet of the Apes, War Horse, World War Z, Star Wars, and the Civil War in America. I'm working on that one at the moment. The latest one was in Ukraine. And I said to President Zelensky, not a very nice person, not a grateful person, not a great guy, I said, guess how I'm going to end this war? And he said, I give up. And I said, absolutely right.
Oh, wonderful. I love the mannerisms as well. He has them perfected. Okay, so let's move on to our next story. This is Brian Eno versus Lord Bethel on wealth creators. This was wonderful. Have a listen.
And I think the people who can get up and move are people who aren't in the least community minded. Or what they're worried about is
they make money.
Sorry?
But they are the wealth creators who create the jobs and pay for the schools and the hospitals. So they may not be to your tastes, but they are very important to the economy.
They're not the wealth creators. The wealth creators are the people who make things, and that's everybody. The wealth creators are the people who...
Boom! Boom! I love this. You know, they're the wealth creators. The wealth creators are the people who are actually working, not the people at the top who are drawing an income from the labor of somebody else. That's the problem. The ones who are creating the wealth, for example, when it comes to Amazon, the people who are actually doing the work are the ones who are creating the wealth for Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos is not creating wealth for society. He's leeching off that wealth. So his company wouldn't work without people. Now, of course, he's moving away from workers. He wants to replace them all with machines, robots, AI, automation. But until then, he needs people. And he can't create anything without those people. So the people, we need to get away from this. Well, I'll shut up and let Brian finish.
Who keep society running. So the people who you are calling the wealth creators, the ones who take advantage of the fact that society is being maintained by doctors, nurses, policemen, firemen, all the other public servants. So I think we should get rid of that idea that there are a few people at the top of the wealth pyramid who are the ones who make us wealthy. They aren't. And I think the people...
Wonderful, wonderful. You know, you need people like this to put these individuals right back in their box. What these Tories or these the right-wing commentators will say is, that we need to focus on the wealth creators, the richest people in society, because if we tax them more, they'll leave. But the people who are leaving are the ones who can leave. But the real wealth remains in the country. I've said before, you can't move a business as easily as you can move an individual to Dubai. Okay. Cavan, great to see you on the stream tonight. Thank you so much for that super chat. Good evening all. Just finished work, and I hope you're relaxing at this stage. Charlie Mullins. Charlie Mullins is a perfect example of this. Charlie Mullins lives in Dubai and in Spain, somewhere in Spain. And of course, the wealth is all created in London because that's where his business is. That's where the plumbers are. They are the plumbers that are working in Charlie Mullins' company are the ones who are creating the wealth. He's leeching off the wealth. He's benefiting from their labor. They're not benefiting to the same extent as he is. You know, if he truly cared about it, he would turn it into a cooperative, and then everyone would be a wealth creator, including himself. But no, he doesn't want that. He preferred to have a business where they work and he makes the profit. Mullins is a bully. I couldn't imagine working for that guy. It would be absolutely terrible. Anyway, guys, I want to show you some clips here from what's happening in the United States, which is extremely concerning. Donald Trump's ICE agents are getting worse and worse by the day. So here is a clip here of an Iranian man who was attacked in his car by ICE agents. It says here, ICE officer smashed a father's window and cuffed him while his child was inside during a school drop-off. This is insane.
Hello, sir.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you so much.
You mind if I grab your ID from you? Go ahead and roll your window all the way down.
Why? What's going on?
Go ahead and roll your window all the way down.
I have a baby in the car.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
With the baby. Just roll your window all the way down. Just go ahead and roll your window down. You're in the window. Roll it down. Roll your window all the way down for me, please.
Yeah.
Do you have your ID on you? Police.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, can I see your ID?
Yeah, that's police.
Where are you heading?
Daycare.
I'm sorry?
Daycare.
Okay.
Where's daycare? Just to Beaverton.
How far?
5 minutes. So, there's a baby in the car. And is it hard to wait for 3 minutes?
Hey, is your phone down?
Yeah.
She said to put the car.
Yeah, put the car here, but would you? Yeah.
Put the car over there.
Put the car over there. Yeah. Mommy's coming now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now? Okay.
Hell, hold on. I'm getting out.
Well, you should have done it already. I told you 3 times. Unbuckle your seatbelt. Step out of the car.
You still understand.
Step out of the car.
Okay. Because I'm Iranian.
Yes,
I'm Iranian.
I understand.
That's why they are doing this. I'm a doctor. I'm an Iranian.
This is not okay. And no one here will identify themselves to me. They came into you are not okay. This is not okay, and no one will identify.
This is a huge problem. You have these individuals. You notice that at these arrests, there's always like 10 guys to arrest one individual. Is it because they're all paid overtime or something? Is it like, hey, if I get involved, I'm going to get paid for this as well? That seems to be the case. You know, you have 15 guys to arrest one individual because they're all getting paid for that arrest, it seems. So they all want to get involved. And there's no due process here. There's no reading of people's rights. There's no proper arrest here. And there are stories of people disappearing. Individuals not turning up to work. People who are being deported still wearing their work uniform. This is beyond insane. I'll show you this other video here.
This is 5-year-old Liam Ramos. He should be in preschool, playing with his friends. But Liam was seized by ICE officers in Minneapolis on Tuesday and is now believed to be more than 1,000 miles away in detention in Texas with his father.
He's a bright young student and he's so kind. All I want is for him to be safe and back here.
The school district superintendent said officers had used a 5-year-old as bait after making Liam knock on the family door to see who else was home. She said,
there needs to be, what needs to happen when Donald Trump is out of office, these individuals need to be dragged before a court and they need to be prosecuted. Every frigging ICE agent needs to be investigated, needs to be dragged before a court, have their day in court. Unlike what they're doing with individuals here. They need to be all challenged. And if the Democrats want to reform ICE or they want to get rid of ICE, something needs to happen because this is completely unacceptable. Flights to the US have completely dropped because people don't want to go there. Because there's a real risk that if you do fly into the United States, that you could be arrested and sent off to a detention center to be forgotten about. This sort of reminds me of what was happening in South America in the 1980s. They disappeared. People lifted off the street by goons of the regime, masked goons, no right to due process, no proper arrest, no lawyer available, and disappeared. And there have been hundreds, if not thousands of people disappeared so far.
He was one of 4 children taken in their area alone.
ICE agents have been roaming our neighborhoods, circling our schools, following our buses, coming into our parking lots and taking our children. And our hearts are shattered.
Another adult.
There was a story I read earlier today how people who are not immigrants have also been harassed by ICE agents because what they're doing is they're going out and buying groceries for immigrants because the immigrants are afraid to go out to the supermarket themselves. And the ICE agents realize that some people are going to buy groceries for immigrants, and those individuals are being harassed by ICE officers as well. There's no getting away from them.
Begged agents not to take Liam, but by the time his older brother returned from middle school, I'm
sorry, but what the fuck is wrong with these ICE agents? Like, how can you, as an agent, arrest a child like this and send him to another side of the... Like, what goes through these people's minds? Do they have any fucking humanity at all? What is wrong with them? Are they completely demented? Whenever you look at documentaries about Nazism, the rise of Hitler, I always get this question: why did ordinary people go along with this? Do they not know? But there were also individuals who were involved in war crimes, and when we think of people who are involved in war crimes, we think of beasts, we think of evil people, but it turned out it was ordinary people, shopkeepers, farmers, people who joined the regime, who engaged in some of the worst crimes of humanity. And we're seeing exactly the same thing with these ICE agents. Do they have any humanity whatsoever? It started out as, we're going after criminals. Okay, they were not doing the right thing. They were not respecting the rule of law. They were not issuing these individuals with their rights. But now it's moved completely away from that. It's just arrest anyone, including children.
His dad were gone.
You know what I also find funny, with the exception of the guy in the center, he's protected, he has immunity, so he's okay. He's not going to get punished in any way. These are the same people. The people wearing the masks are the same people who would refuse to wear a mask during the pandemic. They call it a face nappy. Now they're fucking covering their faces because they're fucking cowards. They know that if anyone identifies them, their life will be a fucking disaster. They're fucking cowards. That's what they are.
This is Greg Bavino on the same streets, the architect of the policy that has seen ICE agents pour into cities like Minneapolis. Captured here lobbing a smoke canister at protesters.
So there is no freedom of expression in the US. We keep hearing from J.D. Vance and Trump how freedom of expression doesn't exist in the UK. And you have this fucking guy throwing smoke canisters at people peacefully protesting, and ICE is harassing them and potentially injuring them by throwing smoke canisters at them. There is no freedom of expression. Jesus Christ.
Today he insisted this is all about criminals, claiming they are only taking people they would describe as the worst of the worst. He was unapologetic about 5-year-old Liam.
Oftentimes you will see violent illegal aliens that perhaps do have families, and those violent criminal illegal aliens are going to be arrested. I've got no qualms about making America safe.
Then engage in due process. You're using children. What crime did this child commit? How is this child an illegal criminal or a criminal alien or a terrorist, as some of them have been described as?
Safer place.
You leave, you
But Liam's story will only serve to motivate ICE protesters as Minneapolis becomes the front line of a national resistance.
There's actually the National Guard, actual soldiers who've been sent to these areas have started wearing high-vis vests because they don't want to be associated with ICE. Because as you can see, ICE dress like fucking soldiers. You know, anyone looking at this from 10 years ago would think, what the hell is the military doing on the streets of America? No, they're not military. They're ICE agents. They're not actually police officers.
Former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton today accused officers of terrorising a population, using children as pawns, saying, "My heart aches for Liam Ramos and his family." ICE called her claims an abject lie, claiming Liam's father was a criminal illegal alien from Ecuador who fled officers, leaving them to ensure Liam was safe. This morning, the vice president made clear federal officers had his backing.
Well, you know, one of the things that we want to do is send a message to our local law enforcement, to our federal law enforcement, that we stand with them. And we're not going to abandon them, and we're not going to do what the last administration did, which is throw them under the bus to appease a bunch of left-wing radicals.
These are people who are members of the Proud Boys. These are some of the individuals who were involved in the January 6th insurrection. Now they're working for ICE.
J.D. Vance then headed to Minneapolis in Minnesota, a democratically run state, with hundreds of thousands fewer undocumented migrants than Republican-controlled Texas, where Liam and his father are being held right now, further fueling speculation that this isn't really about law enforcement, it's about politics.
That's the sad reality. It's about politics. It's not about law enforcement. It never was about law enforcement. It's about punishing people. That's the sad reality. Guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, but I just want to cover one final story. Big story. Well, not really, but just to lighten the mood a little bit. Harris, Irish Taoiseach, or Taoiseach of Ireland, Prime Minister of Ireland, says no scenario in which Ireland joins Board of Peace. Taoiseach. Simon Harris, so he's the Deputy Prime Minister. Simon Harris has said he cannot see a scenario where Ireland can participate in US President's Board of Peace. The board, it goes on to say, speaking during leaders' questions, Mr. Harris said that his personal view was that there was no scenario in which Ireland would join the board as currently constructed. Look, I don't think Ireland was bound to join it. I don't think many countries are going to join it, apart from, you know, the worst countries in the world. You know, you have Belarus joining, and it's not even Belarus joining, it's the president of Belarus joining. You know, when it comes to Israel, it's not even Israel joining, it's Netanyahu joining. And because, as I said in another video, when the axis of evil, yes, or the arses of evil, well done Ireland, yeah. Well, it wasn't a huge surprise that Ireland would be refusing to join. Anyway, it would be the Taoiseach that would be joining and would be expected to pay Donald Trump £1 billion or $1 billion, sorry. To do what? Well, I don't know. We don't know yet. It's not about actually doing anything. It's just about kissing Donald Trump's arse. And Donald Trump, you know, at least the difference between this and Trump University is that at least the people who are joining up for this Board of Peace know it's a scam. That's the difference. So guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you for your super chats, greatly appreciated. Thanks to I'm bored of piss already. Well said, Rachel. And thanks to everyone who came on tonight. Remember to smash the like button. I'll be on the post stream chat for a little bit after the stream tonight, so if you're on Discord, I'll see you on there. And have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. And I should have 2 special guests on Tuesday, so do check that out. I'll keep you guys posted on the channel before then. So hope you enjoyed this before we go. It's an old one, but it's a good one.
Welcome to Broken News. Some news just in: the Jeffrey Epstein controversy has come to an end, and it looks like no one powerful is involved in any way whatsoever. Broken News understands it was all a hoax after all, and it's now time to move on. For more on this, let's cross to our reporter, Dick Windows. Dick, what you saying?
It's over. After years of hearsay, conjecture, rumours and verified hard evidence, it turns out there is nothing more to report on the Jeffrey Epstein controversy after all. The well has run dry. The news comes as President Trump says there is actually no such thing as the Jeffrey Epstein client list anyway, and he's not on it either, even though it doesn't exist. But if it did, his name isn't on it, but it doesn't, and therefore it isn't. Among those who are now confirmed not nonces are evil Victorian slimy pantomime vampire Peter Mandelson, craggy old sex-addicted dangly bollocks Bill Clinton, and we have yet to hear if there has been any change in the nonce status of Prince Andrew. Of course, if there's any suggestion at all he might be a royal teddy-bumming, bulbous, snobby bastard, plum-faced pedo wanker, Broken News will update you. We understand that some people named in this story simply forgot to stop being best buds and hanging out with Epstein after his conviction for child sex offences. An easy mistake to make, I'm sure you'll agree, David.
Oh God, yeah.
Others even accidentally spent months working on massive business deals with Epstein after he was outed as a child rapist. But it's become clear that accidents do happen.
Not their fault?
Not their fault, exactly. Well, the end of this story will come as a relief to many people across the globe who'd started to get a little bit concerned that a bunch of incredibly powerful people had been systematically using their power, money and influence to carry out and then cover up years-long sex trafficking and abuse. Those fears can now be put to rest, and Mandelson's been sacked anyway, so that's definitely the end of it all. Of course, Mr. Epstein himself took his own life by strangling himself to death with gloved hands, then hanging himself before later deleting some CCTV to preserve his own dignity, in a move that many say proves his innocence. Back to you.
Glad that's all cleared up now, Dick. Thank you. What a lovely story. That's all from Broken News. You're up to date.
So have a great weekend, guys. I will see you on Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night.